30 million, you. What the hell trash like you has 30 million to deposit?
That was the first thing Kenneth Brooks heard when he walked into a bank to wire $30 million.
Is this how you treat every customer? Or just the ones who look like me?
Victor's smile vanished. He snapped his fingers at security.
Shut your mouth! Get this thing out of my bank!
30 seconds later, handcuffs, knees on marble, 30 customers watching. Behind the counter, a teller was live streaming.
Y'all seeing this man said 30 million 30?
Kenneth knelt there, silent, counting every face. 14 minutes. That's all it took to burn that branch to the ground. Let me take you back. 2 hours before the handcuffs, before the live stream, before Kenneth Brooks knelt on a marble floor while 30 people watched and no one moved. Kenneth woke at 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning. The house was quiet. A 4-bedroom brick home in Myers Park, Charlotte. Mature trees, a wide porch with 2 rocking chairs. Not flashy, not loud. The kind of house a man buys because the porch reminds him of his grandmother's place on the south side of Chicago. He made coffee from a French press, scrambled 3 eggs in a cast-iron skillet. The kitchen smelled like butter and black coffee. He stood at the counter in a t-shirt and shorts, scrolling through his tablet. Not social media. Deal flow. Quarterly projections. Acquisition targets. His phone buzzed. Lorraine Watts, his executive assistant for 12 years. Monday's board meeting. You reviewed the deck? He texted back. Handled. Taking the morning off. Kenneth Brooks was the founder and CEO of Brooks Capital Ventures, a private equity firm managing over $2 billion in assets. He built it from a 1-room office in Chicago with a folding table and a phone that didn't always work. Now he had 42 employees, offices in 3 cities, and a portfolio that made Wall Street pay attention. But on Saturdays, he was just a man in jeans who made his own eggs. Today, he needed to visit the bank. Brooks Capital was closing a major acquisition, a logistics company in Atlanta. $30 million needed to move between accounts, the kind of transaction that required in-person verification with a branch manager. Standard protocol for amounts that size. Kenneth had been a client of Heritage First National Bank for 6 years. His personal and corporate accounts held a combined $40 million in deposits. He'd done transfers like this before, always smooth, always professional. His previous private banker, a woman named Sandra, handled everything with a phone call and a handshake. Sandra had transferred to another branch 4 months ago. Kenneth hadn't met the new manager. Hadn't needed to. Until today. He pulled on jeans, sneakers, clean, white, comfortable. A plain navy jacket. No suit, no tie, no briefcase, no watch. It was Saturday. He was running an errand, not attending a gala. He drove his own car, a black Audi, understated, the kind that blends into South Park traffic without turning a single head. He didn't bring Lorraine, didn't bring paperwork with the company letterhead, just his driver's license and his debit card. He'd done this 100 times. Walk in, verify, authorize, walk out. 20 minutes tops. Heritage First National sat in the South Park district of Charlotte. Brick and glass, brass lettering above the door. Heritage First National, established 1962. Inside, marble counters polished to a mirror finish, a waiting area with leather chairs, a flat-screen TV mounted on the wall showing CNBC on mute. The air smelled like floor polish and old paper, the scent of money pretending to be humble. The branch manager was Victor Aldridge, late 50s, silver hair, gold cufflinks. He'd run this branch for 9 years like a private club with an invisible dress code. High-net-worth white clients got the leather chairs, the private office, the birthday phone calls, the bottle of scotch at Christmas. Everyone else got the ATM and a tight smile. Victor had an unwritten rule. Every teller knew it. Every loan officer understood it. If someone walked through the door who didn't look like money, you redirected them. Don't waste time, don't engage, move them along. It was never written down. It didn't need to be. The staff understood it the way birds understand wind. It was just the current they flew in. Kenneth pushed through the glass door at 10:15 a.m. The AC hit him, cold and sharp after the warm Charlotte morning. He walked to the service counter, 3 people in line ahead of him. He waited, checked his phone, looked around. He noticed the framed photos on the wall, community awards, charity golf tournaments, ribbon cuttings, all white faces. Every single one. Paige Lawson was at the teller window, early 30s, blonde. She saw Kenneth and her smile didn't appear. She looked past him to the next person in line, a white woman in a cashmere cardigan, and her whole face warmed. "Good morning, Mrs. Ashford. How are the grandkids?" Kenneth reached the counter. Paige's eyes returned to him, flat, empty. "Good morning," he said. "I need to speak with the branch manager about a wire transfer. 30 million. It requires in-person verification." Paige's eyebrows climbed. She looked at his jeans, his sneakers. Her lips pressed together, holding something back. She picked up the phone. "Victor, there's a man out here asking about a $30 million wire." A pause, then quieter. "Yeah, you should probably come see this yourself." In the waiting area, a man in a brown cardigan adjusted his reading glasses. Clarence Hammond, 68 years old, retired postal worker. He'd banked here for 30 years. He shifted his phone on his knee. The camera was already recording. He'd been doing this for 5 years now, recording every visit, just in case. Saturday was just in case. Victor Aldridge took his time. He walked out from the back office like a man strolling through his own living room, slow, deliberate, every step saying, "I'm in charge here, and you can wait." Pressed charcoal suit, gold cufflinks that caught the overhead lights, reading glasses on a chain around his neck, a Mont Blanc pen clipped to his breast pocket. Victor dressed like money because he wanted people to know he stood next to it every day, even if none of it was his. He looked at Kenneth. The scan took 2 seconds. Jeans, sneakers, no watch, no briefcase, no suit, no tie. Victor's face arranged itself into an expression Kenneth had seen 1,000 times, the polite version of disgust. The smile you give someone when you've already decided they're beneath you. "So, you're the one asking about a wire transfer?" "That's right," Kenneth said. 30 million, between 2 accounts I hold here." Victor tilted his head. The patronizing smile spread. 30 million. That's a big number. Very big number. "Can I ask what kind of accounts you hold with us?" "Business and personal, under my name, Kenneth Brooks." Victor moved behind the counter and typed the name into the terminal. The screen loaded. Something shifted in his eyes. A flicker, fast, barely visible, then gone. He cleared his throat. "I'm going to need to verify a few things. Identification?" Kenneth handed over his driver's license. Victor took it between 2 fingers, like picking up something he didn't want to touch. He held it up to the light, tilted it left, tilted it right, studied the photo, studied Kenneth's face. Back to the photo. The kind of examination you'd give a counterfeit bill. "Any documentation? Business cards? Account statements? Anything linking you to these accounts?" "I didn't bring paperwork. It's Saturday. I've done this before. Your system has everything you need." Victor placed the license on the counter. Not handed back. Placed. Like setting down evidence. "With an amount this size, we have to be very careful. You understand. For everyone's protection." The words were correct. The tone was reasonable, but the meaning underneath filled the lobby like gas from a broken pipe. Invisible. Suffocating. and everyone could smell it. Victor didn't invite Kenneth to his office, didn't offer a chair, didn't lower his voice. The interrogation happened right there at the counter, in full view of every person in the lobby. Every question was a spotlight. Where did these funds originate? My firm, Brooks Capital Ventures. We're a private equity company. Private equity? Victor repeated it the way you'd repeat a child's made-up word. And what is the nature of this transfer? An acquisition. Standard operating procedure for deals of this size. And can you explain why someone with accounts of this size would walk in on a Saturday morning? No appointment, no documentation, no... He paused. His eyes dropped to Kenneth's sneakers. No indication of any kind? Every question was a small blade, polite on the surface, drawing blood underneath. The lobby was listening now. Conversations had gone quiet. A woman in the waiting area lowered her magazine. A man near the ATM stopped mid-transaction. Paige stood behind the counter with her arms crossed, watching like a spectator at a show she'd already seen rehearsed. Then, a white couple walked up to the adjacent teller window. Mid-60s, golf shirts, tanned. Victor's entire body changed. His spine straightened. His smile bloomed, wide, warm, genuine. Tom, Sandra, great to see you both. How's the lake house? Still got that dock problem? He leaned on the counter like an old friend at a barbecue. First names, laughter, easy warmth. Kenneth watched this. The contrast was a blade held up to the light. Impossible to miss, impossible to deny. Same counter, same bank, same morning. Different skin, different world. Victor turned back to Kenneth. The warmth evaporated. The mask went back on. Colder now. Tighter. Sir, I'm going to be honest with you. Something about this doesn't add up. What doesn't add up? You walk into my bank on a Saturday. No appointment, no documentation, no business card, no professional attire, asking to move $30 million. Victor leaned forward. That raises flags. What kind of flags? Victor dropped his voice, but not enough. Every word carried. The kind that require me to file a suspicious activity report. The kind that involve law enforcement. The kind that mean I have a legal obligation to detain you if I believe fraudulent activity is in progress. He was threatening to report Kenneth for money laundering. In the middle of the lobby, based on nothing but jeans and skin color. Kenneth's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed level. I've given you my name, my ID, my account number. Your system shows everything. What exactly is suspicious, other than the way I look? Victor straightened. I'll decide what's suspicious in my branch. Behind the counter, Paige pulled out her personal phone. She didn't just hit record. She opened Instagram and tapped live. The red dot blinked on. Caption: You won't believe what's happening at my bank right now. Viewers trickled in. 50, 100, 300. She angled the camera to capture Kenneth from the front and Victor from the side. Victor picked up the desk phone. Dale, I need you in the lobby. Now. We have a suspected fraud in progress. Kenneth didn't move. I'm not leaving. I'm a client of this bank. I have $40 million in accounts here. Call your regional office, call compliance, but I am not leaving. Victor's face reddened. The veins in his neck thickened. He came around the counter, crossing from his side to Kenneth's side, a move that changed the geometry of the room. He was no longer a manager behind a desk. He was a man in someone's space. You are now trespassing, Victor said, loud, projecting, performing for the room. You have been asked to leave. Dale! Dale arrived. Big man, crew cut, Security uniform stretched tight across his shoulders. He looked at Victor, looked at Kenneth, looked at the lobby full of frozen faces. Victor pointed at Kenneth. "This man is attempting wire fraud. Detain him." "I'm not committing any crime," Kenneth said. "Check the system. Dale, cuff him." Dale pulled out handcuffs. He grabbed Kenneth's right wrist first, hard, fast, then the left. The metal clicked shut. The sound echoed off the marble like a gunshot in a cathedral. Cold, sharp, final. Victor put his hand on Kenneth's shoulder and pushed down. On the floor, now. Kenneth's knees hit marble. The cold went through his jeans and into his bones. His hands were locked behind his back. He could feel the metal biting into the skin of his wrists. 2 thin lines of fire. The lobby was frozen. 30 people, not a single voice. A child in the waiting area tugged his mother's sleeve. "Mama, did that man steal something?" Victor heard it. He turned to the child and answered, loud enough for the entire room. "That's right, buddy. That's why we have security, to keep everyone safe from people like him." Kenneth's jaw clenched. His wrists burned. He could feel every eye in the room, the weight of 30 gazes pressing down on the back of his neck. He could hear the hum of the fluorescent lights, the soft murmur of CNBC from the flat screen, and underneath it all, the faint, steady chime of Paige's phone receiving Instagram comments. Paige zoomed in. She zoomed in on Kenneth's face, his eyes, his jaw, the sweat forming at his temple. She whispered into her phone. "Caught a live one today, guys. Walked in here talking about $30 million. Sure, buddy." Viewers, 2,000, then 3,000, then 5,000. Comments flooding faster than she could read. In the waiting area, Clarence Hammond sat perfectly still. His phone rested on his knee, camera pointed at the counter. His footage captured what Paige's didn't, the angle showing Victor's face as he watched Kenneth kneel. The expression wasn't anger. It wasn't caution. It was satisfaction. The quiet, settled pleasure of a man who believed the world was arranged exactly as it should be. Kenneth knelt on the cold marble, handcuffed, humiliated, in the middle of a bank where he held $40 million on a Saturday morning. Because he wore sneakers. He didn't shout, didn't beg, didn't explain himself again. He looked at Victor, one long, steady look, and said 6 words. "Is this how you treat every customer? Or just the ones who look like me?" Victor smirked. "I treat criminals like criminals." Kenneth held his gaze. His voice was quiet, almost gentle. The kind of quiet that doesn't come from weakness. It comes from knowing something the other person doesn't. "What's your full name? I want to make sure I spell it right." Victor laughed, but something in Kenneth's voice, something underneath the calm, made the laugh land wrong. It hung in the air for a beat too long. Then it faded, and for half a second, something crossed Victor's face that hadn't been there before. It looked a lot like doubt. 9 minutes. Kenneth had been on his knees for 9 minutes when the police cruiser pulled into the parking lot. Victor had called 911 4 minutes after the handcuffs went on. His voice on the recording, which would later be played in court, was calm, practiced, and completely fabricated. "I have a black male at Heritage First National, South Park branch, attempting wire fraud. Large amount. He's been detained by security. He became belligerent when confronted. Please send officers immediately." Belligerent. Kenneth hadn't raised his voice once. The livestream would prove that. Clarence's footage would prove that. But Victor didn't know those recordings existed. Or rather, he knew about Paige's livestream and thought it helped his case. He thought the video showed what he wanted it to show: a dangerous man being handled by a competent manager. He was wrong about everything. Two officers entered the bank at 10:38 a.m. The first was a young officer, fresh uniform, stiff posture, hand near his belt out of habit. The second was Officer Powell, mid-30s, white, calm eyes. He'd worked the South Park beat for 3 years. He walked into bank lobbies the way a mechanic walks into a garage, scanning for what didn't fit. What didn't fit was a man in handcuffs on a marble floor, while 30 people sat in leather chairs and watched. Powell approached Kenneth first. He knelt down, actually knelt, one knee on the marble, and spoke directly to him, not over him, not past him, to him. "Sir, can you tell me what happened here?" Kenneth's voice was steady. 9 minutes on a cold floor hadn't broken it. "My name is Kenneth Brooks. I'm a client of this bank. I've held accounts here for 6 years. I came in this morning to authorize a wire transfer. $30 million between two of my accounts. The branch manager refused to verify my information. He called me a fraud. He had security handcuff me. I have not raised my voice. I have not threatened anyone. I have not moved from this spot." Powell looked at the handcuffs, looked at Kenneth's wrists. The skin around the metal was red and swelling. He looked at the lobby, the silent customers, the staring tellers, the child still gripping his mother's hand. Then he looked at Victor. "Is this accurate?" Victor straightened. He crossed his arms. The posture of a man who believed the badge in the room was on his side. "He walked in off the street claiming to have $30 million. No documentation, no appointment, no business identification. He matches the profile of, did you verify his accounts in your system?" Victor paused, a beat too long. "The circumstances required, did you check the system, yes or no?" Silence. The fluorescent lights buzzed. CNBC murmured from the flat screen. Page's livestream chimed with another comment notification. Somewhere in the lobby, a pen dropped and nobody picked it up. "I was in the process of, yes or no, Mr. Aldridge." No. Powell let that word sit in the air for 3 full seconds. Then he turned to Page. "Turn off the live stream. Now." Page fumbled with her phone. Her fingers were shaking, not from guilt, but from the sudden realization that the room had shifted. She closed Instagram. But it was already too late. 14 minutes of unedited, uncut live footage had been broadcast to over 8,000 viewers. Hundreds had screen recorded it. The video was already replicating itself across the internet like a virus with no cure. Powell turned back to Kenneth. He looked at his face, and something clicked. A flicker of recognition. 6 months ago, a charity gala at the convention center. Brooks Capital Ventures had sponsored the event. Kenneth had given the keynote speech about economic equity in underserved communities. Powell had been in the third row, off-duty, attending with his wife. He remembered the speech. He remembered the man. "Remove the handcuffs," Powell said. Dale shifted. "Officer, the manager said..." "I said remove them. Now." Dale looked at Victor. Victor opened his mouth, then closed it. The authority in the room had changed hands. Dale reached for his key and unlocked the cuffs. The metal fell away. Kenneth brought his wrists forward. He didn't rub them, not yet. He held them up, just slightly, just enough for the room to see. 2 rings of angry red skin, deep grooves where the steel had pressed into flesh for 9 minutes. The marks would bruise by evening. They would be photographed by his attorney by nightfall. Powell helped Kenneth to his feet. Then he turned to Victor. His voice was low, controlled, and carried the weight of a man who understood exactly what he was looking at. "You just handcuffed one of the wealthiest men in Charlotte, on the floor of his own bank." Victor's face went through 4 expressions in 2 seconds: confusion, denial, recognition, and fear. That's not possible. He doesn't pull up his accounts. Right now. Victor's hands trembled as he walked to the terminal. He typed Kenneth's name. The screen loaded. The numbers filled the display. Combined deposits, $40,486,000. Account status, active. 6 years. 0 flags. 0 suspicious activity reports. 0 holds. 0 issues of any kind. The color drained from Victor's face like water from a cracked glass. Forehead to chin, gray replacing pink. $40 million, Powell said, and you had him on the floor. Victor's mouth moved. Nothing useful came out. How was I? He didn't look like what? Silence. Kenneth stood in the middle of the lobby. His jacket was twisted. A button was missing, popped off when Dale forced him down. His wrists throbbed. The red marks pulsed with his heartbeat. He straightened his jacket. Slowly. Then he turned to the lobby. Every face was watching. Tellers, customers, the couple in golf shirts, the mother holding her child, the man by the ATM who'd frozen mid-transaction. He spoke, not shouting, not angry, calm, clear, and aimed at every ear in the room. This man just handcuffed a customer with $40 million in this bank because I wore sneakers on a Saturday. He paused. If I were white, wearing this exact outfit, standing at this exact counter, would I be on that floor right now? Nobody answered. Nobody needed to. The lobby was still. The only sound was the hum of the fluorescent lights and the soft scroll of CNBC headlines on the flat screen. A stock ticker moved across the bottom of the screen. The world outside kept going. Inside Heritage First National, it had stopped. While the bank lobby sat in silence, something far louder was happening online. Page's live stream had been killed, but not before 8,000 viewers watched it in real time. Hundreds had screen recorded it. By Saturday afternoon, the footage was everywhere. TikTok, Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, every platform, every feed, every group chat. By Saturday evening, 2 million views. By Sunday morning, 8 million. By Sunday night, 20 million. And the comments weren't laughing. That man was calm and respectful, and they put him in handcuffs. This is racial profiling on camera, on live stream. Who is the branch manager? Name and location. Now. The teller really narrated this like it was a comedy show. She's done. Then came the identification. Internet users found the branch, found Victor's LinkedIn, found Page's social media, every profile, every photo, every post she'd ever made. And then someone found Kenneth. Wait, that's Kenneth Brooks, CEO of Brooks Capital Ventures. That man manages $2 billion, and they had him on the floor. The story didn't go viral. It detonated. Saturday afternoon, Kenneth called Lorraine. Get Douglas Everett. Get corporate counsel. File a preservation order before close of business. All security footage, internal communications, employee records, everything. Sunday, Clarence Hammond found Kenneth's firm through a news article and called the office. He offered his footage, 14 minutes, different angle, unedited. It captured what Page's live stream missed. Victor's face when Kenneth was forced to kneel. The satisfaction. The pleasure. The moment the ID was demanded, and the dismissive tone before the cameras started, and the deep red handcuff marks on Kenneth's wrists when the cuffs came off. Lorraine compiled the file. 6-year account history. $40 million in deposits. 0 flags. Both videos, and preliminary research showing a pattern. Multiple online reviews from Black and Hispanic customers describing being profiled, refused service, or redirected at this specific branch. Kenneth also discovered that Heritage First National's parent company, Atlantic Union Financial Group, had been under a federal consent decree for 2 years. The decree required anti-discrimination protocols at every branch. Victor's branch had filed 0 compliance reports in 9 years. Not one. Sunday night, Russell Tate, the junior loan officer who'd watched from the back office doorway and said nothing, sat at his kitchen table and wrote a 4-page statement. Branch culture, unwritten rules, profiling protocols, names, dates, incidents. He emailed it to corporate compliance and saved a copy. Monday morning, he told Victor he was taking a personal day. He didn't come back. Monday afternoon, Kenneth's legal team filed a $50 million lawsuit against Heritage First National, Victor Aldridge personally, and Atlantic Union Financial Group. CFPB complaint filed. Criminal investigation opened by Detective Sharon Mills of Charlotte-Mecklenburg PD. The number, $50 million, wasn't about the money. Kenneth didn't need it. He needed the number to be loud enough that no bank in America could pretend they didn't hear it. Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. The Heritage First National parking lot was mostly empty. 2 black SUVs pulled in and parked directly in front of the entrance, not in visitor spots, at the curb, like they owned the pavement. Denise Foster stepped out of the first vehicle, regional director of Atlantic Union Financial Group, the parent company that owned Heritage First and 21 other branches across the Southeast. Dark suit, no jewelry except a thin silver watch, no smile. She moved like a woman who had canceled her entire week for this. Behind her, 2 corporate attorneys in charcoal suits carrying matching briefcases, and an independent HR investigator with a banker's box of document requests. 4 people, walking in formation, heels on asphalt. Inside, Victor was at his desk, coffee steaming, calendar open. He was reviewing the weekend occupancy numbers for the safe deposit vault. He'd spent Saturday night and all of Sunday telling himself the situation was handled. The man was removed. Dale did his job. Paige's video would blow over. These things always did. People got angry on the internet for a day and moved on. He hadn't checked social media. He didn't know the video had 20 million views. He didn't know Kenneth Brooks was trending nationally. He didn't know his own name was being searched 40,000 times per hour on Google. He was humming when Denise opened his office door without knocking. Victor looked up. His smile started, automatic, professional. Then it stalled. He knew Denise Foster. She'd visited this branch twice in 9 years, both times for routine audits, both times scheduled months in advance. This was not scheduled. This was not routine. Denise, good morning. I wasn't expecting... Sit down, Victor. He was already sitting, but something in her voice made him feel like he needed to sit again. Deeper. Lower. Denise placed her briefcase on his desk. She didn't open it yet. She folded her hands. Do you know who Kenneth Brooks is? Victor blinked. The man from Saturday? Some guy who walked in trying to... Kenneth Brooks is the founder and CEO of Brooks Capital Ventures. His firm manages over $2 billion in assets. He has held accounts at this branch for 6 years, personal and corporate deposits totaling over $40 million. She paused, let each number land. He was one of the largest individual clients in this entire region. Was. The past tense hit Victor like a brick thrown through glass. He has filed a $50 million lawsuit against this branch, against you personally, and against Atlantic Union Financial Group. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has opened an investigation. The Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department has opened a criminal case and a live stream, broadcast by your own teller from your own lobby, of you having this man handcuffed and forced to his knees has been viewed over 20 million times. Victor's mouth opened. Nothing came out. His face drained, not all at once, but in stages. Forehead first, then cheeks, then lips. Like watching a photograph bleach in the sun. Denise opened her briefcase. She pulled out a tablet, full 14 minutes. Victor watched himself walk out from the back office, watched himself interrogate Kenneth, watched himself call security, watched Dale handcuff Kenneth, watched Kenneth's knees hit marble, heard Paige's voice, his own employee, narrate the whole thing. Caught a live one today, guys. Then Denise swiped to the second video, Clarence Hammond's footage. Different angle. Closer. This one captured what the live stream missed. Victor's face as Kenneth knelt, the expression of satisfaction, the smirk when the child asked if Kenneth stole something, the red grooves on Kenneth's wrists when the handcuffs came off. Then she opened a folder. Russell Tate's 4-page statement. Every paragraph a nail, every sentence a lock clicking shut. Then the compliance records. 9 years. 0 anti-discrimination reports filed. 0. The federal consent decree required quarterly submissions. Victor hadn't filed one. Not once in 9 years. Victor grabbed the edge of his desk. Denise, I was following protocol. He had no documentation, no appointment. I was protecting the bank. You were protecting yourself. Denise's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. From a man in sneakers who made you uncomfortable, and you handcuffed him on your lobby floor and let your teller turn it into entertainment. She stood. Your employment is terminated effective immediately. Grounds: assault, false imprisonment, racial discrimination, fraud, violation of the federal consent decree, and conduct that has exposed this company to catastrophic legal and reputational liability. You can't. I've been here 9 years. And in 9 years, you filed 0 compliance reports. You terminated 11 employees of color. You built a profiling system. You handcuffed a $40 million client on your floor. And you let your teller live stream it to 20 million people. She closed the briefcase. 9 years, Victor. This is what you built. She turned to the door, paused. Dale is terminated. Paige Lawson is terminated. Your badges will be collected before you leave the building. Security will escort all 3 of you out. Do not access any bank systems. Do not contact any clients or staff. The door closed behind her. The office was silent. Mitt sat in his leather chair, the same chair he'd sat in for 9 years, making decisions about who belonged and who didn't. The Mont Blanc pen was still clipped to his pocket. The gold cufflinks still caught the light. But the nameplate on the desk didn't mean anything anymore. And the man who thought he owned the lobby had just been told he didn't even own the chair. Victor walked out of his office carrying a cardboard box. Framed photos, a coffee mug that said, "Number 1 branch manager," his Mont Blanc pen. A desk calendar with Saturday still showing, the last day he'd mattered in this building. A corporate security officer walked beside him. Not Dale. Dale was being processed in the break room, handing over his badge and his handcuffs. The same handcuffs that had left red marks on a man worth $2 billion. Victor moved through the lobby, past the teller windows where he'd stood 1,000 mornings giving instructions, past the leather chairs where his favorite clients used to sit, past the brass letters on the wall. Heritage First National, established 1962. He'd walked past those letters every day for 9 years and felt like they belonged to him. They didn't. They never did. The remaining staff watched in silence. 2 tellers stood frozen behind their windows. A loan officer at his desk stared at his keyboard. Nobody said goodbye. Nobody said anything. Paige Lawson was next. She walked out from behind the counter with her bag over one shoulder and mascara running down both cheeks. Her phone was in her hand, the same phone that had broadcast 14 minutes of a man being humiliated on a marble floor to 8,000 live viewers and 20 million replays. The HR investigator had asked her one question. "You said the phone wasn't used for company business. Then why did you live stream a customer interaction on your personal social media?" Paige had no answer. She had no answer for any of it. She walked to the front door, pushed through, and stood on the sidewalk, blinking in the morning sun. Her phone buzzed nonstop. Notifications, tags, messages, reposts. The live stream she couldn't delete. The words she couldn't take back. Caught a live one. Her voice, her face, her grin, permanently embedded in the internet like a fossil in stone. Dale left through the back exit. He said nothing to anyone. He carried no box. He had nothing worth taking. Victor stood in the parking lot. The cardboard box sat on the hood of his car. He looked at the building, brick and glass, brass letters, the same front door he'd walked through 2,340 mornings in a row. He'd believed he was the backbone of this place, the standard-bearer, the gatekeeper. He was the problem. He just never knew it. Or maybe he always knew, and that was worse. He sat in his car with the engine off for a long time. The morning sun heated the windshield. He stared at the building, then at the steering wheel, then at nothing. Inside the bank, Kenneth Brooks walked through the front door. Same jeans, same sneakers, same navy jacket, missing button. He'd come back Tuesday afternoon while Denise was still on site, not for an apology, not for satisfaction. He approached Denise in the lobby. She extended her hand. He shook it. "I'm not here for an apology," he said. "I'm here to make sure this never happens to the next person who walks through that door in sneakers." "What do you need?" "Everything. New management, new training, new culture. And I want to see it happen. Not in a press release. In this lobby." Denise nodded. "You'll have it." Kenneth looked around the room. The staff were watching, cautious, uncertain, ashamed. He didn't address them. He didn't need to. His presence said what words couldn't. "I was on your floor 3 days ago. Now I'm standing in your lobby, deciding your future." Over the next 48 hours, the aftermath spread beyond the building. Longtime clients of color began contacting the branch and corporate office. Stories they'd never filed, complaints they'd never made. A black business owner who was told the private banking lounge was reserved and watched a white man sit down 5 minutes later. A Hispanic woman who was asked for 3 forms of ID to deposit a check. An elderly black man who was redirected to the ATM every single visit for 2 years. Each story had been swallowed, each indignity absorbed, because they didn't think anyone would care. Clarence Hammond was interviewed by a local reporter that evening. He sat in his living room in the same brown cardigan, his phone on the coffee table. "I've been recording every visit to that bank for 5 years," he said. "Every single one. Just in case. My wife used to say I was paranoid." He paused, smiled. A small, tired, knowing smile. Saturday, just in case, finally showed up. Russell Tate called Denise on Wednesday. She assured him his position was safe and his courage would be recognized. He exhaled, the first full breath he'd taken since Saturday morning. Kenneth received hundreds of messages from strangers that week. Different names, different cities, the same story. "That happened to me. I was treated the same way. Thank you for not letting it go." The criminal case moved fast. When the evidence is on live stream, there's not much to argue about. Detective Sharon Mills built the file in 6 days. She'd been a detective with Charlotte Mecklenburg PD for 11 years. She'd seen racial profiling cases before, usually murkier, usually one person's word against another's, usually buried under layers of he said, she said, until the whole thing quietly disappeared. This one was different. This one had 2 cameras, 20 million witnesses, and a teller who narrated her own crime like a podcast host. Charges against Victor Aldridge: assault for physically forcing Kenneth to his knees, false imprisonment for detaining a lawful customer without cause, and filing false statements. His internal incident report, written Saturday afternoon, claimed Kenneth was belligerent, verbally aggressive, and physically threatening. The live stream showed a man who never raised his voice. Clarence's footage showed a man who never moved his hands. Victor's own report was the lie that sealed his case. Dale was charged with assault for the unlawful handcuffing and use of excessive force on a cooperating individual. Paige Lawson faced civil charges: defamation for her livestream commentary, "Caught a live one, sure buddy," which implied criminal conduct by a lawful customer, and violation of customer privacy regulations for broadcasting a banking interaction without consent. The CFPB investigation expanded beyond the South Park branch. Federal investigators audited all 22 Heritage First National locations. 3 other branches showed similar patterns: disproportionate service refusals for customers of color, profiling complaints marked resolved with no follow-up, and zero compliance with the consent decree that was supposed to prevent exactly this. Kenneth's legal team filed the $50 million civil lawsuit the same week. Named defendants: Heritage First National Bank, Victor Aldridge personally, Dale, Paige Lawson, and Atlantic Union Financial Group. Allegations: racial discrimination, assault, false imprisonment, defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and violation of the federal consent decree. The trial began 5 weeks later. Charlotte County Courthouse, a Tuesday morning in October. Judge Warren Caldwell presiding, a 62-year-old former federal prosecutor known for 2 things: his patience with evidence and his total absence of patience with excuses. The gallery was packed. Front row, journalists from 4 national outlets, 2 local papers, and a documentary crew. Behind them, civil rights advocates, banking industry observers, and a row of law students taking notes. Clarence Hammond sat in the 3rd row, brown cardigan, reading glasses, hands folded in his lap. The prosecution opened with Paige's live stream. The courtroom screen lit up. The bank lobby appeared: marble, chandeliers, brass fixtures. Then Victor walked out. Then the interrogation. Then the call to security. Then Dale. Then the handcuffs. The courtroom heard the metal click shut. They heard Kenneth's knees hit marble. They heard the child ask, "Did that man steal something?" They heard Victor answer, "That's right, buddy." Then they heard Paige. Her voice. Her laugh. "Got a live one today, guys. Walked in here talking about $30 million. Sure, buddy." A juror in the front row pressed her hand over her mouth. Another closed his eyes and didn't open them until the video ended. Judge Caldwell watched without expression, but his pen stopped moving halfway through. He set it down and didn't pick it up again until the screen went dark. Then the prosecution played Clarence's footage. 14 minutes, uncut. The second angle. This video showed what the live stream couldn't: Victor's face. The smirk when Kenneth was forced down, the way he straightened his cufflinks while a man knelt on his floor. The satisfaction in his eyes. Not anger, not concern. Pleasure. It also showed the aftermath, the moment the handcuffs came off. The camera caught Kenneth's wrists, 2 rings of swollen red skin, deep grooves pressed into flesh. The courtroom was silent. A journalist stopped typing. Russell Tate took the stand on the second day. He wore a tie and a suit that didn't quite fit. He'd bought it for the occasion. His hands shook on the witness box. He described the culture, the unwritten rules, the redirecting. Victor's jokes about black clients. "There goes the neighborhood," when a black family walked in. "Check his pockets," whispered to Dale when a young black man approached the counter. He described the private banking services that were only offered to white customers, the leather chairs, the birthday calls, the Christmas scotch. The prosecutor asked why he didn't intervene on Saturday. Russell's voice cracked. "Because I was afraid. Because I watched it happen and I told myself it wasn't my problem. Because saying something meant losing my job, and staying quiet meant keeping it." He paused, swallowed. "I chose wrong. And I have to live with the fact that a man was on his knees 10 feet away from me, and I closed the door." 5 former customers of color testified over 2 days. Each story was different in the details and identical in the feeling, the profiling, the redirection, the ID checks that white customers never faced, the smiles that disappeared, the warmth that evaporated. Years of small humiliations, never reported, never filed, never spoken aloud, until now. Victor's defense attorney argued standard security protocols. He called the handcuffing a reasonable precaution for a high-value transaction. He pointed out that Kenneth had no documentation and no appointment. Judge Caldwell's sentencing remarks dismantled every excuse in 4 minutes. Mr. Aldridge did not follow protocol. He followed prejudice. He looked at a man, a longtime client of his own institution, holding $40 million in deposits, and saw not a customer, but a threat. Not because of behavior, because of skin color. He paused. He threw that man's dignity on a marble floor along with his identification. He ordered him handcuffed. He forced him to his knees. He told a child that this man was a criminal, and his own employee broadcast the entire act to millions of people as entertainment. Another pause. The cruelty was the point, and the camera caught every second of it. Sentencing. Victor Aldridge, 16 months in state prison, 3 years supervised probation, mandatory anti-discrimination training, full restitution, permanent restraining order. Dale, 8 months, barred from the security industry. Paige Lawson, found liable in civil court for defamation and privacy violations. Ordered to pay damages. Her name, her face, and her voice, caught a live one, permanently linked to the case on every search engine, every database, every background check for the rest of her professional life. Atlantic Union Financial Group settled Kenneth's lawsuit for an undisclosed amount, required to overhaul anti-discrimination policies across all 22 branches, 5 years of federal monitoring, and the establishment of a $10 million community fund for banking access in underserved Charlotte neighborhoods. Kenneth gave one interview, 10 minutes on a national news program. He wore a suit this time, not because he needed to, but because the occasion called for it. "I didn't file this lawsuit because I was embarrassed," he said. "I filed it because I know how this story ends when the person in those sneakers doesn't have $40 million in the bank. It ends with silence. And I'm done with silence." The quote was shared over 1 million times. Clarence Hammond was interviewed by 3 outlets. He said the same thing to each one. "I've been recording for 5 years. I always knew someday it would matter. I just didn't think it would matter to 20 million people." 6 months later. Heritage First National's South Park branch looked the same from the outside, brick and glass, brass letters above the door. The parking lot still filled up on Saturday mornings. The AC still hit you cold when you walk through the front door. But inside, everything had changed. Gloria Sims sat behind the branch manager's desk. Black woman, mid-40s, promoted from within the company. She'd spent 8 years at a Heritage First branch in Durham, quietly building the kind of culture Victor spent 9 years destroying. Her policy was 3 words long: every chair, every person. It meant the leather chairs were for everyone. The private office was for everyone. The birthday calls, the premium service, the eye contact, the handshake. For everyone. No scanning, no profiling, no unwritten rules, no invisible dress code. The first thing Gloria did was take down the framed community photos. All white faces, golf tournaments, ribbon cuttings. She replaced them with new ones. A financial literacy workshop at a community center in West Charlotte. A ribbon cutting at a mobile banking unit in Greer Heights. A photo of the branch staff. Every face, every shade, every name. The second thing she did was remove the leather chair from Victor's old office and put it in the main lobby, right next to the front door, so it was the first thing you saw when you walked in. A chair for anyone, not just the people who looked like they deserved it. Clarence Hammond still banked there, every other Saturday, same as always. He still sat in the waiting area, but now someone brought him coffee, without him asking. He didn't carry his phone on his knee anymore. He didn't need to record. For the first time in 5 years, he could just sit and read his newspaper. His wife told him she was proud. He told her he was just glad his hands could finally stop shaking when he walked through the door. Russell Tate was promoted to senior loan officer at a different Heritage First branch across town. He also led the company's new internal accountability training program, built from his own 4-page statement about the culture he'd witnessed and the silence he'd chosen before finally speaking up. Every new employee at every Heritage First branch would hear his story in their first week. Not as a warning, as a mirror. The $10 million community fund had already opened 3 mobile banking units in underserved Charlotte neighborhoods. Free financial literacy workshops every Saturday. No fee checking accounts. No minimum balance. No dress code. Banking for the people who had never been offered the leather chair. Until now. On a Saturday morning in April, exactly 6 months after the handcuffs, Kenneth Brooks walked into Heritage First National's South Park branch. Jeans, white sneakers, plain navy jacket. Same outfit. Every detail the same. Except one. A new button, sewn where the old one had popped off on a marble floor. Gloria saw him from across the lobby. She smiled. Wide, warm, real. The kind of smile that doesn't check what you're wearing first. "Good morning, Mr. Brooks. What can we do for you today?" Kenneth smiled back. "Just a wire transfer, if that's all right." "Absolutely. Right this way." She walked him to the private office, offered coffee, the leather chair, the window with a view of the parking lot. The same parking lot where Victor Aldridge once sat in his car with a cardboard box, staring at a building that no longer wanted him. Kenneth sat down. The coffee was good. The chair was comfortable. Morning sunlight came through the glass and warmed the side of his face. He didn't need anyone to know who he was. He just needed to know that the next person who walked through that door, in sneakers or a suit, with $40 or $40 million, would be treated exactly the same. So, here's my question. If you were standing in that bank lobby on a Saturday morning, not as the CEO, not as someone with lawyers and a $2 billion firm, just as yourself, standing in line, watching a man get handcuffed and shoved to his knees for the crime of wearing sneakers, would you have pulled out your phone like Clarence, or would you have looked down at your shoes? Be honest, drop it in the comments. And if this story made you feel something, if it made your jaw tight, your chest heavy, or your fist close, share it. Send it to someone who needs to hear it. Hit that like button, subscribe, because these stories aren't stopping. Not until things change. Heritage First National is fictional. Kenneth Brooks is fictional. But that marble floor is real. People get pushed down onto it every single day. In banks, in stores, in offices, in restaurants, for the crime of not looking like what someone expected. Kenneth had the money. He had the lawyers. He had the receipts. But he shouldn't have needed any of that just to deposit a check in peace. The question isn't what's in your bank account. The question is what's in the room when you walk through the door. Is it respect? Or is it a test you never signed up for? I'll see you in the next one. Stay loud, stay sharp, and never let anyone decide what you're worth based on what you're wearing.